Hi guys, Doug here with a new video, and this video will be the most fun melee specs in PvP in the War Within right now. So I wanted to make like this tier list split up so it is easier to digest, and I will be making the healer one and the ranged one shortly after this one. So I think I will put 2 days between so it has time to breathe. But I think we always talk about the meta and always talk about which one should be the flavor, is the flavor of the month, which one is actually dominating PvP. But I do feel like we should also talk about the fun factor, because you always have to play what is fun, in my opinion. And yes, for some people, fun is winning games, which I understand. Which I can really relate, but I also want to add that mostly whenever I'm playing World of Warcraft, it is to have fun in general. I don't want to play a spec just to win. I want to actually enjoy the spec I'm playing. And I feel like I can talk a bit about every single spec, because I do play a lot of specs. I think the only one I haven't played from this list of specs is Havoc Demon Hunter. But I did manage to talk with someone that is very well versed in DH, and kind of give me his sentiment about DH and how it is right now and how fun it is. Now, a few factors before we start the video. I'm not going to do too long for this tier list, but I do factor in how good it is right now as well. Because again, I think you can only have true fun if it is not garbage. But it is a factor. It is not like the end all be all. So some specs might be very bad right now, like meta wise, but could be very fun. And if it gets a buff, it still is going to be staying fun, but probably going to be performing way better. So it is not like a tier list for which specs are really bad in PvP or which specs are very strong in PvP, because this is not the goal of this tier list. Tier list is about fun, and fun mostly. I talk about world PvP a bit, but mostly about 2v2, 3v3, solo queue RPGs, and solo shuffle. World PvP is like a little factor, so if people do love to world PvP, I will be also talking about that as well. But in 2v2, 3v3, solo shuffle, and solo queue RPGs, which one is the most fun in general, in my opinion? Again, it is like a very biased tier list. Fun is for everyone different. And I'm going to talk about really quickly about a example that I can talk about fun, for example. So personally, let's talk about rogue specs. I think rogue specs are a very good one to talk first and foremost. They are very fun in general. Like if you like those stealthy classes, it's a very specialized spec. It's not for everyone, but it could actually be for everyone because of the specs and how it designs. Assassination Rogue is more about bleeds and does a lot of damage consistently and does a lot of pressure, and you do win in dampening most of the time, except if they don't really respect your goes. For example, if you do a death mark and he doesn't react on it, then obviously it's going to die. But death mark has been nerfed over time, and now it's not like the scared city that makes or breaks the assassination rogue. I do feel like it is fun to play in 2v2 with a healer. You could also have a lot of fun in 3s. I think in solo shuffle it is a bit less fun because you can face a lot of DRs. I think in solo queue RPG as well, you can have a lot of fun because you have a lot of impact. So I would say right now, if I have to rank the 3 rogue specs, I would say that the most fun I have currently if I play rogue, and whenever I'm playing rogue, is that assassination rogue is the most fun spec right now, because it doesn't really rely too much on your allies. You can actually deal damage without feeling that you need a DR to make it work. While subtlety rogue, for me, it is B tier fun. I think it is fun to have impact in games and to literally put someone in a KO situations where he's low HP, shadow duel, and he's done, for example. But I think it is very frustrating to play, especially in solo shuffle, where if you do get DR'd or the people are not playing around you, or they don't really care about the things that you want to put the enemy through. For example, if you're like doing a blind and then all of a sudden you see a little dot flying onto the blinded target, it kind of sucks, right? So Assassination Rogue also has that, but I would say that the damage is so overwhelming with a lot of pressure on 3 targets at all times that blind is not like an inherently needed ability to win games. It does make pressure and they will trinket it for sure, but it is not like with subtlety where you do need a big setup to actually like land kills. So for me, Assassination Rogue, top of fun. I would say that right now subtlety rogue for me, solo QRBG is quite fun. I think in 2v2, if you love playing double DPS, I think subtlety rogue is probably the best rogue spec for that. In threes, I think it's like, again, I prefer to play assassination rogue, and that's why I put it like in B tier. It's not like C tier, it's like still fun, but I prefer assassination rogue. And outlaw rogue, I'm going to be honest, I have my share bit of fun. But I think the issue I have with Outlaw Rogue is that it does too little damage. It also doesn't work as a spec right now in PvP, so it's also garbage. But also how it deals damage is a bit like contrived. Like they want you to deal damage with Killing Spree, but outside of that, Dispatch is not doing too much. Your Between the Eyes is not doing too much. Your Pistol Shot is not doing too much, even if you're playing the right builds for that. You don't have Shadowlands anymore, so obviously the benefits that you would get by having like being like stealthed and out of stealth for 10 seconds afterwards is only achieved through Vanish. But then you have to use Vanish very offensively, which I kinda like. You have that as Assassination Rogue as well, you have that as well with a Subtlety Rogue, but I think as Outlaw Rogue, I would like them to be more Outlaw instead of like having to play around Vanish to do damage. It's like I like Shadowy do. I think Shadow Dance is something that is good that is gone, because it's not. It should not be for Outlaw Rogue. It should not be for Assassination Rogue. It should only be for Subtlety Rogue. But they didn't really replace it for Outlaw Rogue. That's what I'm talking about. Like I feel like in the spec tree, a lot of the stuff that is working is actually intended to be worked with Shadow Dance, and that is not replaced right now. And just for that, I think it's going to be D tier for me until they fix it. So if they eventually fix the spec tree to work without having to go stealthed, because Shadow Dance is gone now, so make it work without having stealth as a requirement, would already be a right step on the right direction. I think it is also quite disheartening that it is still around like Mangosh, which is the mastery from Outlaw Rogue. I think it should be reworked. I think it's a boring talent. It was like, again, it's like like not talent but mastery that is derived since, I don't know, Cataclysm. You had like a talent for it. I don't remember what was the real mastery from Combat Rogue, which was not Outlaw, but like back in the day it was Combat. But I wish like it was different, and I don't really like the mastery for Outlaw Rogue. So for me it's going to be D tier. I think in World PvP you can have fun with all three, but it's not like going to decide for C tier or D tier between World PvP or not. And 2v2 Outlaw Rogue underwhelming because you don't have damage anymore. Like you're going to win with dampening and with CC, but I think you would have an easier time just by going Subtlety or Outlaw Assassination Rogue. Solo QRBGs, it's the same. You like the damage. And Solo Shuffle, it's very frustrating because then you're really just a CC bot. If you want to win, you're going to CC anyways. But the issue is, why not play Subtlety if it's to do this, right? So for me, it's going to be a D tier. Now, a spec that I really love to play, I'm going to talk about right now, and it is Enhancement Shaman. Although I did do a hiatus, I'm actually thinking about really playing it again, because I do miss it. I think it is one of the most fun specs to play in the game, and it is just a shame that the meta is not really suited to Enhancement Shaman, but also they didn't really change the few things that were very frustrating for Enhancement Shaman. For example, the lack of mobility, the lack of actually having your Storm Strike mean too, like it means a bit more these days, that's true, but I think getting kited means like that the Storm Strike build is not working. I also like wish that again, they're changing in 10 point, was it 10 point? 11.1.5. 11.0.5, excuse me. So it's still the first patch, but the mid-season, the anniversary patch, which is going to come out end of the month. That is going to fix a few problems, but I still have a problem with mobility. I think Feral Lunge is such a clunky spell to reach on targets that I don't really enjoy how mobility works with Enhancement Shaman. And I understand that like not every single spec needs to be very mobile, but I think if you are not mobile, you need to have tools to be able to stick on the target for some reason. So for example, having a root on your Frost Shock, which was something back in the day, which is not the case right now. Having a stun on like your Feral Spirits, that is also gone. I would like that maybe to come back. That would be making Feral Spirits a bit more enjoyable and maybe Feral Spirits a real CZ and not like a pure Maelstrom machine. They could do that as well, but right now it's not the case. They could do a few stuff on the spec tree, put that on the class tree, because it is like literally a, for example, a Primordial Wave is for both Elemental Shaman, Restoration Shaman, and Enhancement Shaman. So I don't see a reason why it is actually on the spec tree instead of in the class tree. Same for Ascendance, I think it should be also on the class tree. All those things makes more sense if it was like more of the class tree. That kind of deters for my joy, but I would still say that personally, again, it's a personal tier list, but maybe you would also like get the disease of loving Enhancement Shaman, and I'm talking about a disease because it is truly a disease. Enhancement Shaman is really the most fun spec to play. Now, I'm going to still nerf it on the tier list because, to be realistic, solo RBG, the impact is so low, or like little to be low, like it's really low, that you're not going to enjoy too much of your time. I do climb on Enhancement Shaman, so it is possible to climb, but it is really, you need your teammates kind of feel. Your Storm, like again, Stormweaver is quite cool, so you are able to heal yourself a lot, and that is also showing on the score sheets. But I still think like your impact is quite low to have enjoyment. In 2v2, the issue is with a healer, it is really dampening because you don't have a MS effect. But also, you can play with double DPS, but this meta is not really suited for that, unfortunately. If you're facing a Feral Druid with a Disc Priest, for example, it is like done. Any Disc Priest comp is actually very hard for you because they're dealing the same kind of damage than the DPS, so why bother? You could play Enhancement Shaman with a Disc Priest, so that could work, but I think the MS effect is still too big to discount it. And for 3v3, I think the lack of comps is disheartening. So to be still, it is a subjective tier list. It is still my tier list. It is still my enjoyment. But to be truth, I think in general, you're not going to like Enhancement Shaman as much as I would like. And I think just because of that, I'm going to put that at A tier. And that is because I'm biased, guys. That's the truth. I'm biased because I think in any other tier list, you would put maybe Enhancement Shaman B tier because of the lack of comps, the lack of agency, the lack of true, like really a MS effect, the lack of mobility, the lack of disruption, except your interrupt, which is very disruptive. That's the only thing that you are like really doing. So that could be more of a B tier, and the playstyle could be very fun, but again, your effectiveness is also quite low on a lot of aspects that maybe that will deter on the front. But if I'm thinking about like purely the fun of the spec, you just purely the fun of the spec, and you're playing the spec, are you enjoying the spec? I think I'm enjoying it a lot. Although you have a button bloat, although you have some clear problems, I still enjoy the fact that I play Enhancement Shaman because it is a really enjoying spec to play. That's my opinion. Why is it not S tier? Because it is not really performing right now, so I don't see myself like really putting it on S tier while they are really just not that good right now. Let's talk about Feral Druids. Feral Druids, I think, is a easy S tier, and that is from someone that is not really a fan of Feral Druid because it's a lot of commitment. That's the truth. If you want to play Feral Druid, you have to commit. Although this iteration of Feral Druid is not the hardest to play, but it is for sure like still a learning curve. But if you're talking about truth, 2v2, it is a monster. I do feel like they are crazy enough to say that it deserves to be S tier. I think I will be making 2v2 tier lists very soon, but I still need to have data, a lot of data, because I don't face enough specs variety, I would say, to have like a true vision for 2v2. But I will be making tier lists for 2v2 very soon, once I have enough, like, again, games and sample size, because I cannot really rely only on Dressfire. I want to rely on my own experience and my own eyes. But I think right now Feral Druid is like awesome there. The 3v3 scene, Feral Druid is literally taking over, like FMP, which is Feral Mage, Paladin or Priest, for example. They are also very good. You could also play Jungle, which is very prominent on the ladder right now. You could even play Feral Druid, like Kitty Cleave, a Feral Druid Warrior. It's not really popular right now because of the meta, but that can change once the meta gets nerfed. Feral Druid of Unholy Decay, very, very good as well. That's literally Ebola, and it's really, really good. It does unhealable damage at one point. And I think in general you will have a lot of good times in threes. Because of how strong it is right now in Feral Druid as well. Then you have Soul Shuffle, where I think personally the chaos kind of benefits for you. You don't really need to like stun lock someone as much as a rogue, and your stun you can use it on all, like any of the 3 targets. You have double stun as well. And I think you can play the AoE build, which is bleeding everyone down, or you can play like a big single target bleeds, and you could do a lot of damage with that as well. And then we're talking about Soul RPGs, which I think Feral Druid has redeemed a lot of like the things that I would say that is not really good. They are redeemed in the sense where their damage is actually very impressive, and you are bound to lose a 1v1 to a Feral Druid. Often the Feral Druid will just like KO you very quickly, especially if they have Berserk. You're going to die very quickly. So the fact that it is very fun to play, the fact that it is very strong to play right now, the fact that you have high impact in all 4 brackets feels like it is an S tier spec to play, and I would say even above Assassination Rogue. Now we're talking about a few specs that I truly main. I'm going to talk about Warrior. The truth is, right now, Arms Warrior is kind of garbage, and it is not coming from someone that is like really biased to it. I think a lot of people that have 2 eyes and some game sense and some game knowledge, they understand that Arms Warrior is just not good in this current meta, and the nerfs that they had for Dragonflight are now just not good for the War Within. This should just not happen. A lot of stuff from Arms Warrior is actually nerfed to 60%, no, 40% effectiveness, so they got nerfed 60% out of 1 talent or 2 talents or 3 talents, depending on how you look at it. And it is still nerfed on Avatar as well. It is nerfed on survivability as well. Colossus is kind of unusable if you're playing versus someone smart. And Slayer, why not play Fury if you're playing Slayer? That is how I feel right now. The fact that the gameplay is fun, although very basic. I'm going to say that Arms is quite basic, but it has like some beauty into its basicness, right? I think Arms Warrior itself, I find it very unfun to play right now because of all the mistakes and all the things that they've done to Arms Warrior that is yet to be reverted, and they should revert it really quickly. Hopefully we do get like a patch Friday, or not a patch, but like a patch note Friday, or a list of changes that they will do for next week. I hope they do that Friday, and I hope Arms Warrior is somewhere on that list in the PvP side. I don't know how it is in PvE right now, but in PvP it has been miserable. The only thing that is actually saving Arms from D tier is that it is actually a very, not in a bad sense, basic spec to play melee wise, and I mean basic by the fundamentals on that spec is very high. If you play arms and you're improving on arms, you are basically improving your game sense on every single melee DPS. I'm not talking about assassination rogue or rogues in general, or even feral. I'm talking about like generalized melees, for example DKs, for example Retribution Paladin, for example Havoc Demon, for example Windwalker. If you're playing arms and you're improving on it, you're going to improve on every single class or spec you're going to play that is kind of the same characteristic as arms. But in 2v2 it is weak, 3v3 it is weak, in solo shuffle it is extremely weak, and in solo QRPG the only thing that is going to save you is War Banner and your MS effect, because else you could just be replaced by anyone and would be the same or even better. For me it's going to be C tier fun wise. Fury Warrior fun wise, for me it's not that fun. And now I understand that some people do like the fact that it has little to no buttons, that it has like somewhat of a you play the spec and you are feeling like your adrenaline is pumping, and you're doing a lot of crits and you're doing a lot of damage, and it's like very instant. Like if you want to do damage, you can do it right away, you don't need to build it up, while arms has it, but it has like a bit less of consistent damage compared to arms. At least that's how I feel. But Slayer kind of compensated it, and I do feel like Slayer for Fury did make it more consistently bursty, while before it was not that case. I think I have to put it more fun than arms, just because it is actually very performing compared to arms. Now the how it plays, it is not very satisfying, so that's why I'm going to put it on B tier and not higher, because I don't really enjoy the gameplay. And again, some people might enjoy it to death, and that's cool, and I'll be still playing sometimes Fury Warrior. But if I have to choose between gameplay from arms and Fury, I would choose arms. But the gameplay from Fury is way more rewarding, because currently it is stronger. In 2v2 you have a chance to actually climb. In 3v3 I think all comps that plays with a warrior would prefer you to be 5 Fury Warrior, because right now you have the damage and you have the effectiveness that is also like following through the Fury Warrior choice. But also your soul shuffle will have a bit more of an easier time, because you are facing more casters and you're more effective versus casters as well. I do feel like you're more sturdy as well for some reason. While Ignore Pain was actually something that was making arms more sturdy, it is not the case anymore. Diebar Sword is also good only versus melees, and even then a sub-rogue can just cheap shot you through Diebar Sword, or bleeds are already effectively on you, so your Diebar Sword has no impact. But Soul QRPG, for example, I think Fury has a bit of an easier time than arms, but I think again the utility side is very low, and it's not like you're going to solo carry games, in my opinion, except on very specific maps where you can actually deal some good damage. So that's why I'm going to put it in B tier right now. Now about DKs, I think DK is very much it's difficult to rate, because again Frosty K, I find it quite fun, but I understand that most people would not like Frosty K because of how it plays. You can either play like a very setupy way of Frosty K, or you can play like a worst Fury Warrior where you're trying to dual build and you're trying to be very on your face and doing damage all times, depending on Pillar Frost actually there for burst, or you don't have Pillar Frost and you try to maintain your damage. I think Frosty K has been quite boring because of how it performs, but also I feel like, if I am very objective, it is not made for everyone. I cannot recommend a Frosty K. I would even recommend Enhancement Shaman above Frosty K, and that's how bad the recommendation would be if you're playing Frosty K. I also think you need to try hard way more to have the same results as unholy decay, which is, again, depending on how you see it, less fun. I think the rotation is too simple. I think, like, why do I say that Frost Decay is harder than to play in general than easier? It's because that you are playing around setups, and people can ruin your setup, or people can just know and how to play around your setup. And that is quite hard to know whenever you can do a setup without getting interrupted. That is like experience needed. You need to know when to use your grip, when to hold your grip for your goes, and that's something that you need to learn if you're playing Unholy Decay, for example. I think Unholy Decay has been very fun. I think just the gameplay of it, whenever I'm playing Unholy Decay, it is very effective. I think your bleeds is effectively strong, which is kind of weird for Season 1, but it is. I think the fact that you can speed up, either you play Score Strike build, where whenever you're going to use your Score Strike, it is going to actually accelerate your bleed, your disease damage, which is then going to deal more damage for you. Or you're playing Clawing Shadows, where you are going to throw big shadowy claws to the enemy to deal a lot of damage. That's a gameplay switch that you can do. I think it's fun to have multiple builds onto one spec, although to be fair, the main build is used by everyone. You can still like get a nerf on that and still be effective because you have other builds at your disposal. Unholy Decay in 2v2, it is kind of great if you're playing with a healer. Obviously with Preservation Evoker or Disc Priest would be really nice for you. But the feral druids are going to eat you. It is what it is. 3v3, you have a multitude of comps to play. I think Unholy Decay is very flexible, and that is actually bringing a lot of joy towards that spec for the players that are playing. Soul Shuffle, I think one of the best melees. You're effectively very strong versus casters as well, and you can really ruin their day. And how it depends how you see it, but just that can actually bring you a lot of joy if you're playing the spec. But in general, it is very performing, and Solo RPG, I think the best melee in the game. If you're not counting rogues, for example, I think it is really strong, and your AoE pressure is insane. I think the buttons that you are going to press are going to be meaningful, and I think the damage and how it deals is something that is like different but very fun. Now, Havoc Demon Hunter, like I said in the beginning of the video, I haven't played this season the World Within with the Demon Hunter, so it is like still a big question mark. I want to level 1, but I have like other specs inside for that. I do feel like, from what I've gathered from my friend, they have a satisfying like rotation right now, but the issue is that they got nerfs that hard in general that it is not performing as well, and it is frustrating to play. That's why you have a lot of Havoc Demon Hunter playing Fury Warrior instead. Now I think it's the issue is it's very hard to actually like really buff Demon Hunter. They actually need a rework, which is not easy to do. But I would say that right now the fun would be equal to Fury Warrior, but it is not performing as much as Fury Warrior. Why? Simply because that Havoc Demon Hunter, they have worse time right now because of tuning. 2v2, normally if you're playing with a resto druid or you're playing with a disc priest or whatever, it should be fine. It should make you kind of happy, and you could actually climb as a Demon Hunter, but you're going to face rogues and feral druids and they're going to eat you. So you will depend on who you're facing, and as you may know, feral druids are really rampant in 2s, and I would say in general rogues as well. So that's why I'm going to put them at B tier for a reason. And 3s, again, you have multitude of comps, but it is just not working right now. And Soul RPG, I think it is also a very good spec. It does good. It's fun as well because of the mobility, and you can have a true impact on all of maps. And that is something that it is invaluable to me. Like, if having impact in Soul RPG makes it way more fun and way more spammable as well. If you're talking about Retribution Paladin, I think Retribution Paladin is a fun spec. I think the issue is that we are kind of in the midst of having Retribution Paladin, or just the Paladin class in general, changed and reworked in the mid-season patch. So I don't think they're going to change anything in this month of actual gameplay. But right now in twos, you could play double DPS, or you can play with a healer. It's very dampening with your healer, but if you play with Disc Priest, it should be fine. It's very like matchup dependent if you want to like see Retribution Paladin succeed. I would say that in threes you have some good comps, but it is unfortunately a bit nerfed. So hopefully we do get like a few buffs towards the allies of Retribution Paladin, and you will see way more Retribution Paladins in general. If we're talking about a Retribution Paladin, I think Solo RBG, you have a lot of utility, so you could win just based on that. And Soul Shuffle, I think you have a okay time at best. So I think the gameplay is fun. I think like how they nerfed the few things that was before the rework. Right now it is like in a good state. So for me, A tier is really deserving for them. Survival Hunter, I think it is one of the most fun specs in the game. Meta-wise, it is doing fine actually. I think just like MM is performing damage higher, and that's why like everyone's playing MM. But Survival Hunter is actually playing very well and is fun and performing well as well. So in twos, you are one of the kings of DPS. As you may see, maybe Assassination Rogues, Feral Druid, and Survival Hunter, they are really like top of the world in twos. In threes, Survival Hunter is a bit less fun, but that's like part of the price that you're going to pay just based on the spec that you're playing as well. I would say that Solo RBG, you have an impact. It is not like null, but it is not the greatest. But your damage can carry fights and can carry games. And Soul Shuffle, I think if you're like very good at your Survival Hunter, you could actually have a lot of good lobbies. But the hardest part is actually getting better on a Survival Hunter. Now, Windwalker is also a very fun spec. And if you're talking about like pure fun, like keybinds and presses and how it feels to play, I do feel like Windwalker is one of the specs that is like feeling great right now in the World Within, especially since you're playing around haste now a bit more. It feels way more smooth, and it is like a concern that was live on the beta that is kinda like telling them that they are doing a pretty good job with Windwalker in general. Now, to end this video, I want to say that if you're taking this seriously, you think that I'm talking purely about like power level and thinking about like purely like is the spec good or not, please do not. This tier list is like about fun mostly, and performance is also like into account, but I would never put enhancement shaman A tier and subtlety rogue B tier if it's just like purely a generalized tier list. It is not the case. Generalized wise, I would say enhancement shaman is not performing well, but it is like doing okay in certain parts of the game. But subtlety rogue, for example, is way better in threes. If you're like very organized, subtlety rogue is actually doing very well. And Soul Shuffle is very random, but at a certain point of the MMR, it will then jump into a better tier list for them. So that's an example. So again, it's about fun mostly, and then performance. So don't take it like this. And again, it's like a opinion. Like this is really subjective. This is like, again, fun is probably the most subjective term that you could give in World of Warcraft. Sometimes fun doesn't mean like it is performing, and sometimes performance is not always tied to fun. Like again, if you don't like unholy DK at all, but you see it performing, then again, it depends about you if you prefer to win or you prefer to have fun with the spec that you're playing. So that is mostly it. Again, thank you for watching this video. Really appreciate you. I'm very tired, but hopefully you do enjoy these kinds of videos. It is a 34-minute video on a tier list, which is like not always the biggest, but this is like the melee version. I'm going to do the ranged version. I'm going to do the healer version as well. For the healer one, I'll wait a bit because I want to actually like level my priest so I can actually talk about it, because I played every single healer right now except priest. So I'll be playing priest for the War Within, and then I will give you my opinion about it. But again, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.